Forced Entertainment is a small British theatre company. They formed in 1984 with only 6 members and have worked together in that same group since then, though they can be found often working with other theatres, artists and companies. Tim Etchells is the artistic director of Forced Entertainment, but the company primarily operates under a collaborative style of devising theatre, where they all pitch in and give out ideas they have for their new shows. Now, when I was doing my degree, he was someone I ended up continually researching and writing about in my essays. My particular theatre degree focused on contemporary theatre, so it made some logical sense that we studied contemporary practitioners. So, one day, I was a second-year student who was honestly fairly new to theatre. I was never really one of those types that came out of the womb quoting Shakespeare and putting on shows for their parents every night. In fact, to this day, I still haven't read a single play of Shakespeare despite doing an entire theatre degree. I'm a stubborn person sometimes. But in any case, there I was, having to pick between this small set of contemporary practitioners that I frankly had never even heard of. When I was researching Forced Entertainment for the first time, I saw this vast catalogue of performances spanning over 30 years of content and performances. But they felt so pedestrian to me. The grandiosity of the lights and the breathtaking set pieces and the enticing presence of an actor were entirely absent within these performances. The performances from Forced Entertainment felt hollow.
Once upon a time, there was a king. He's not very old, but he was a bit old.
The actors stumbled around the stage like amateurs in low-budget costumes, delivering lines with such a casual attitude, and not even in the theatrical kind of casual either.
Are your fingernails clean?
Yes. Yeah. I washed my hands before we started.
I thought to myself, surely this isn't the future of theatre, right? Why on earth would my course allow something like this untheatrical theatre, to be considered performance? Confused yet eager to prove myself as an artist, I presented my findings to the rest of the group and to the lecturer, with warm enthusiasm written across their face, and pen firmly gripped in their hand to write comments about my presentation. If I remember correctly, my opinions were rather dissenting towards the company. Their preferred style of anti-theatricality was nonsensical to me. What would be the point of creating a piece of theatre that is just repeating the same exercise over and over again for hours? The pieces they put on were like public showings of theatre exercises, rather than a play you would see in the theatres scattered around the West End. I just plainly didn't understand what it was that warranted my time, their books and the many academic texts about them that were so apparently profound. But hopefully, you noticed I'm speaking in past tense, so I can just break the tension here and say that I do like them now. In fact, they're my favourite theatre company. Now, what about this has anything to do with why video essays are outdated? Okay, let's have a shot of doing this 3-minute thing with the first prompt. So basically what's going to be happening here is I'm basically just going to ramble at you for 3 minutes. The point of this section, I suppose, is basically just kind of like giving a challenge to myself. I'm usually a lot more used to just scripting things and having the luxury of just, having something in front of me to read and then having not really to think about what I'm actually saying. And I also seem to have the habit of coming across quite monotonous, at least in my opinion, from how I hear back some of the things that I'm doing as well. So I guess with this little experimenty kind of style that I'm going for, it's not even necessarily a style, it's just an experiment in general, to be honest, that I'm trying to do just to see what I can do under pressure and explain the things I have in my head without resorting to constantly needing to script myself or to edit myself down. And it also, I think, bluntly, I guess, helps the audience, i.e. you, I guess, to understand that there is like a person behind this, I suppose. And it's not even necessarily in the kind of cheesy, ooh, look, I'm a real authentic person. It's just moreover that I would prefer that, you know, these videos are just more than videos. They're more someone's ideas. They're not like something to be taken as gospel. They're an essay. Essays are very subjective in and of themselves. So this little section, you'll probably see a couple more of these as the video goes on. They're related to what's going on in the rest of the video. There's two distinct other parts that you might begin to pick up on as you go through the video. And yeah, this will definitely be explained by the next couple sections of text. And God, I have like 37 seconds left, and it's really hard to actually fill the hour stuff. I just feel the need to fill it with words. But don't worry, I'm almost done. I'm glad I decided to do this idea though, because this for me feels a lot more engaging than what I could have been doing in place of this instead. So I hope this doesn't come across as like ridiculous for the rest of you, but please try and stick around, because I think it'll turn out to be something a little bit interesting for you at least. So yeah. Tim Etchells and the members of Forced Entertainment, Robin Arthur, Richard Loudon, Claire Marshall, Kathy Naden and Terry O'Connor usually set about devising their theatre through the making of rules or games. Now this part is taking it from observations someone else had observing their devising techniques, so take this with a grain of salt. Alex Mimikides describes the system as waiting for something to happen, for a project or system to suggest itself. When it does, subject it to thorough trial, discuss its merit as a system and the material it is likely to produce at great length. Don't commit too early, keep testing alternatives, saving rejects for future shows. Once you've got a system, exploit it thoroughly. Fix the material, but pretend you haven't. So, let's put it into practice. We're in the rehearsal space, which can be almost any open space for actors to practice or rehearse in, and you walk up to the front or are at least separated from the other actors to be in a performance space of sorts. You say a sentence that must begin with the word we alongside a confession of some sort, and then either stay on and say another confession, or step back and let another actor say a confession. This can be literally anything, such as
we defied gravity and walked on water.
Or
we lay in hospital in the Rue de Jules Verne in Paris, and we wondered what the world would be like without us.
Or even
we sold ordinary foods as organic.
Oh right, yes, that was an entire show they did. And in some of the shows they did this for a paying audience for up to 6 hours. 6 hours. Yet somehow I still ended up watching it for around 10 minutes because I was hooked on what they were going to say next. So how did they decide on that as a show? Well, refer back to the rules Mimikides wrote out. They generally look at the game, test it out rigorously, and then scrutinise what works about the game and what doesn't. Even if that apparently means they do a lot of smoking and sitting about waiting for something to happen. When you pay attention to the silence in the space, you might begin to imagine what could be up there in that space, and the stimuli around you can be helpful for providing that content.
In a moment, I'm going to lie down, and when I do, you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to start to cry. You're going to start to cry, and you won't be able to stop for the rest of the show.
They don't like to just forget ideas either, hence they record their findings in some way, such as voice recordings or video recordings of themselves in the rehearsal space. There's almost never any commitment to formally scripting anything within the pieces themselves that Forced Entertainment create. Speak Bitterness's script, despite being written down, is just each statement in the play in one large paragraph without script markers or separation the entirety of the way through. And I love it. I love that they tear apart what a play is supposed to be, or what going to the theatre is supposed to mean for people that go there. They aren't by any means selling out massive theatre venues in London, but they are a household name in the contemporary British theatre community. These aren't the only people doing this either. Carol Churchill often writes her plays, such as Love and Information, not with characters, but rather through line breaks that can be assigned to anyone for any number of lines. Frantic Assembly love movement and ensemble work to illustrate metaphorical ideas, such as in The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which dealt with one of the most magical ways to illustrate autism to an audience that I've ever seen, period. Sarah Kane plays with the concept of no stage directions in Crave, and even the lack of grammatical or traditional scripture in 4.48 Psychosis. The ways in which a story can be told is endless. Yes, why video essays are outdated. What I might be finding to be tiring with video essays. I'll give you 3 minutes to think about it. Or just skip ahead. That's the luxury of YouTube. You don't have to wait for the punchline anymore. Not with characters, but rather through line breaks that can be assigned to anyone. Okay, so it's me again, another 3 minutes on the clock, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about Forced Entertainment off of my own head, because as great as it would be for me to just throw Forced Entertainment Wikipedia articles at you, I don't think that's that fun for me to watch when I've seen something similar. So when I was in university doing my Forced Entertainment stuff, as you probably saw earlier, no, I haven't actually gotten on to that bit, you'll see this in a bit, I did not like Forced Entertainment. I thought they were really weird, I didn't get their thing, I don't know why they did most of their shows just like so concrete to this little theatre game they've got going on, but eventually I kind of found out that their kind of comedy improv sort of style that they have was really intriguing for me. And it's not necessarily the comedy that was intriguing, it was moreover how actors on a stage would talk under pressure, or go about talking about different scenarios under pressure. And I think that the thing that I'm struggling to word is basically, I think these conversations that I'm having now in front of like no script, none of that kind of stuff, I think this is more engaging and more interesting for the viewer to watch than the finished product of having a script in front of you. So if I were to make the section just like a history of Forced Entertainment, you'd be like, yeah, sure, this is like the most cliche way to display the information you could have ever done. So, oh, my phone's gone off. So, yeah, I'm really interested by the idea of the production and the process of making something being the something that actually gets shown, and I'm doing a little bit of that here, I suppose. And initially, I was supposed to be doing this on Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, and like my sort of, I have like a bit of a, it's not an obsession, but I liked theme parks and places like Alton Towers and Pleasure Beach and stuff in Blackpool. So I wanted to do a little video about that, and maybe talk about like this one time on a snow day, I would just be playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, and it was just a really nice memory that I had. But does it deserve a whole video? Am I some sort of authority on Roller Coaster Tycoon or simulator style games? No, I'm not, and I don't know why that should be the thing that I should have like an authority or a say over. It doesn't stand out as interesting to me either. So yeah, done. the task of talking for 3 minutes about gibbons. Probably see it kind of hippie, just kind of. Do you like designing the characters, or the way the pen can be manipulated about the page to produce different strokes? Do you like making other people feel happier after a bad day, or do And it's part 3 of this. I don't know why I decided to give myself the task of talking for 3 minutes about giving you the actual answer, but here I am. So the answer is, luckily I've actually wrote it down as the prompt, so I'm not completely stuck. The answer is that video essays in general have much too narrow way of approaching storytelling in their work. So every frame and painting has this way of presenting their analysis, their videos, and you should probably go and watch a couple of their videos from them, by the way. They are excellently made, and the reason why they are so is because the guy behind it is, you know, an editor, a professional editor at that, so they know what they're talking about, which is why their editing and the way they structure their essays seems so seamless and smooth. But when you look at these sort of, I guess I'll put it as amateurish kind of style essays, and I'm one of those people. I'm just starting out doing video essays. I'm not particularly anything kind of special in that regard yet, at least. I'm trying to find my way out of this, or trying to find my way as to what or who I will be with this kind of channel, I suppose. But I think that just the way I was doing these video essays prior, they didn't feel like they were engaging. And as someone that came from theatre, one of the most important things you are taught is to recognize and acknowledge the audience that are watching you as the most important thing that is there. They're the one that, you know, pay for your bills. They're the one that sit down to your show, watch your piece, clap if they want to, and rave about your show on Twitter or something. Like, they're the ones with the most power in that kind of situation. So from that, I kind of looked at how Forced Entertainment kind of tell their stories, and on their YouTube channel they literally have the entire works of Shakespeare told through like bottles of alcohol and like bottles of condiments, and they tell the whole story of Shakespeare, just the one person and the bottles. And I found that like not necessarily the most engaging way to tell Shakespeare, but a very interesting way to go about telling the story of Shakespeare, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to follow in their footsteps a little bit by changing the way that I tell the story of my video essays. And I suppose with these little 3-minute sections that I'm doing, I guess we'll see how this comes out, because this is the end of this section. So to get a little into why I've structured the video like this, I want to talk about identity. And I don't think I can candidly do that in a 3-minute improvisatory task I decided to set myself for this video. As I've been making these videos over the past few months, there's been a lot of things I've been testing out for myself within my editing process. Getting used to Adobe Premiere, as previously I used Sony Vegas, and trying to hone in on what my sense of humour is. I know I've always wanted to do these kinds of think pieces or something vaguely academic in tone, so maybe not so much in execution. Something I don't often feel, which I'm sure that many of us feel, is the feeling of something that I have created has come across from my own being as being authentically me. You see YouTubers out there and they have their own aesthetics that they've spent time working on, but they've seemingly always known what they wanted to be from the start, even if it wasn't necessarily conscious on their part. Despite doing a creative degree, I still felt like my own personal input wasn't something that felt like what I would actually contribute. It felt like I was trying to replicate the presets that the theatre world had laid out for me, but none of it seemed to fit with me all that much. Even when I worked on theatre pieces that were, so to speak, more under my control, it still felt like I was clawing in the dark, pretending to know what I was trying to be as a creative. For some of the viewers watching, I am aware finding yourself as an artist comes across as incredibly pretentious or vague because no one really knows it until they find it. For you, who are also an artist in any sense of the word, these projects you have scrapped, the ideas that were left behind, the long slumps of time when you were working and stressing away at a project only to see minimal improvements. I think the advice I would give is to step back and look at the genre of work you're in. Whether that's drawing, streaming, or making music. Take apart the very foundations of what the genre is, the pen to the paper, the interaction with an audience member, the baseline you're trying to write. What tiny little thing is the thing that makes you even want to pursue creativity in the first place? What is it that you think you're good at doing? Do you like designing the characters, or the way the pen can be manipulated about the page to produce different strokes? Do you like making other people feel happier after a bad day, or do you enjoy talking about something you love to others who haven't played it yet? Do you enjoy the bass as an accompaniment to the entirety of a song, or as a solo instrument? For me as an actor, it was more than just getting up on a stage and acting. It was about dissecting and finding the innards of the medium at hand. Creativity for me is always about playing, and play is the word that I will always use, in that I play with how I could make a video essay by only giving myself some small prompts and seeing what happens. There are many videos out there talking about how to make a video essay, and they all have valid points because video essays have been successful from many of these guidelines. But who said that the every frame a painting way was the only way to make a video essay? And why are you following it so closely? It is fun to replicate the style, and the style has a lot of things you can learn from, but it's not something that is easily done well without it feeling like a clone of it. In fact, if you're so hung up on replicating the style of video essay, you could literally have your focus be on what each video essayist does that works so well. There are enough video essayists out there to analyse. For video essayists in particular though, it's important to remember that there are so many ways to tell the story of your work, and a story is how I plan to treat my essays. It's a narrative to follow, not just a slog of words that eventually end. Will I continue to play with structure and the construction of a video essay in my future videos? I'm not sure, but I definitely will be playing a lot more with what my videos can actually be. I enjoy taking it apart, and it aligns with something I have a lot of experience with from my theatre background, which, by the way, if you have a degree or a set of skills or a hobby you're interested in, you should definitely be using those skills. Hell, I'd love to watch a live streamed video essay one day somehow, or a video essay about a celebrity only told through the words the celebrity has said in interviews or something. I have seen similar content to it, and I was extremely engaged the entire time. It is to take apart your hobby, and when you think you've taken it apart, smashing it into even smaller pieces to find the heart of what it is you truly enjoy about your artistry. Thank you for watching that little experiment that I've decided to do. So what better way to end this video than to just have me improv the ending as well. This has been a massive challenge for me to sort of reorder the different segments and see what works and what doesn't, especially working with improvised material to actually try and say a point with whatever I'm saying. So if you did enjoy the video somehow, please like and subscribe, and if you want to see more of my content, then please look back through my other videos. They're definitely a little bit more, structured than this one. But otherwise, I shall see you whenever I see you next for the next video. Tschüss!